Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
Two managerial heavyweights faced off in the Premier League when Antonio Conte's Tottenham took on Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. The Reds did not want to lose any further ground on Pep's men, while Spurs still have eyes firmly on the top four. In the end, this enthralling match ended 2-2 thanks to the deadly duo of Kane and Son for Spurs, whilst Robertson and Jota scored for the Reds. The XG showed that Spurs were wasteful with their chances, with the XG time app showing that Spurs were generally on top in the XG battle. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look.
A quick reminder of the formations used by both sides, as seen on the OneFootball app. OneFootball will get you match updates, formation updates, as well as player and team stats, and so much more. And the best part is, you can get it absolutely free through the sponsored link in the description below.
Let's begin with Liverpool in possession. Spurs did not press high, ending with a passes per defensive action of over 21. So Liverpool were able to find the centre-backs fairly easily. And Spurs defended with a mid to low 5-3-2, with Kane and Son staying deep and narrow, and that, paired with a flat midfield three, meant that the Liverpool midfield could be well protected. So, this meant that Liverpool had to play down the flanks, which they don't mind too much as they have so much quality there. Liverpool had two shapes to do so. One fullback could remain deep as the third man. In case Son and Kane pressed, they could be the outlet. However, in these cases, Milner could also move to the left back position. However, Kane and Son generally did not press, and it was instead generally the role of Ndombele and Ali to shift in and out of the midfield to protect the wide regions. But at times, Liverpool realised having a third man deep could be a waste, with Son and Kane not pressing regardless. So instead, Matip and Conte could operate extremely wide in the build-up, giving the fullbacks the scope to advance higher. And Spurs did adopt a similar defensive strategy, with Ndombele or Ali coming out to close the centre-backs and the midfield shifting across. And Liverpool could take advantage of this in a few ways. Firstly, with Ndombele having been dragged high, Robertson and Mane were 1 versus 1 with their men, with less protection in front of them. We would see Liverpool look for the direct ball in behind the high line, with Mane's mobility getting him there ahead of the defender. But more commonly, Robertson and Mane would initially drop deep, opening up even more room in this space. The presence of Jota made it difficult for Dyer to cover across, so there will now be more room for an attacker to spin and run into. We see this in the first Liverpool goal. Milner receives, having taken up the third centre-back role. Robertson draws the wing-back, and Mane is also coming deep, dragging Sanchez higher up the pitch and creating space. So, when Robertson receives, Mane has space to attack, and though his initial cross is blocked, Robertson's follow-up cross is finished by Jota. When Firmino came on and they switched to the 4-2-4, when they had the left side overload, he could drop in to find space between the lines as Mane pushed the defence deep. This shape did leave Liverpool extremely vulnerable throughout the match though. The split centre-backs meant that whenever there was a turnover, Kane and Son, who had remained relatively high, had at worst a 2 versus 2, and at times even a 2 versus 1 advantage, with different passages to hit. This led to several high-quality situations for Spurs. For the second goal, even though it comes from a possession phase rather than a transition, the space between the centre-backs is glaring, with Kane forcing Conte wide, meaning Son can make the run in between the two to eventually finish. The Liverpool fullbacks were key again as Spurs opted to protect the centre. Some teams when using a back five would have aggressive wing-backs press the fullbacks, with wide centre-backs moving across. But presumably, Conte did not want to have these gaps between the defenders as well as the isolation. So he let the fullbacks have the space instead and had his wingbacks on the wingers. So when Trent would advance, wide or inside, it meant that Ali had to come across to cover, dragging the rest of the Spurs midfield across, meaning that the switch to Robertson was consistently on, leading to crossing opportunities. Let's look at Spurs on the ball. When building up, they generally shifted to a 4, with Sanchez moving to the right back position and Emerson high. However, with the Liverpool front 3 ready to press, Lloris could be forced long. But even in open play, Liverpool were high pressers, with a passes per defensive action of less than 7. Spurs generally built up with a back 3, and their wing-backs advanced high fairly early. And Liverpool's pressing was aided by the wingers opting to press the wide centre-backs rather than the wingers, meaning that they could go man-to-man. One area Spurs did take advantage of though, was that Salah often overcommitted to pressing the central centre-back, so they could work it around Salah at times, meaning that Ben Davies would be free to make a wide overload. And the Liverpool front 3 being narrow meant that when the wing-backs received the ball, Trent and Robertson would press high. This would create space for Ali or Ndombele to move into. And higher up, the role of these free 8s was interesting. Winks generally operated as a single pivot, with Ali and Ndombele much higher. And this was because with the Liverpool wingers high, they were defending with a flat 4, so both or one of the free 8s moving high meant that the fullbacks often had a 2 versus 1. So Ali in particular could look to make runs into the half space to get on the end of the long ball, leading to good chances. Overall, the winner of this match were the neutrals, who saw two top teams not holding back against each other. Both managers may be content with a point, but Liverpool can't afford to fall much further behind City, while Spurs' games in hand mean that they are still well positioned. But what did you make of the match? And for the tactical score, despite getting a draw, Klopp scores a 4, as Liverpool were consistently exposed defensively, and not much adaptation was made. On another day, they could have lost this match. Conte scores a 6. However, giving the Liverpool fullback so much room did work against him at times. But what are your ratings? And if you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy the FMS Patreon. On Patreon, you'll get early access to videos, exclusive videos, as well as the ability to vote on various polls and so much more. It's a great way to support the channel, and it is now cheaper than ever. All you have to do is head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple, or press the card in the top right or the end card at the end of this video. A special thanks to my patrons, including my newest patron, Ufulu Majawa.
But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.